is Brandy Carly, and our group will be focusing on the local food systems. Within this presentation, we're going to be looking at the 2025 Phoenix Food Action Plan and defining why and how sustainability issues in the food system are being addressed, following the 5 goals as listed on the City of Phoenix's website as 1, healthy food for all, 2, strengthen the local economy, 3, celebrate local and diverse agriculture, 4, maintain a sustainable environment, and 5, develop a resilient food system. So our group kind of decided to work from the ground up and talk about the foundation of the food system itself first, which would be agriculture. So I'm going to be looking at goal number 4, maintaining a sustainable environment. This kind of has 2 parts to it. We have the food-related waste, which should be prevented, reused, or recycled based on their methane gas production in landfills, as well as the inputs that go into it are being wasted if we're wasting that food. And then the sustainable food production practices themselves. So I want to say, why do we practice sustainable agriculture? The answer behind that should be obvious. Without agriculture, we can't sustain populations. Food is very necessary for our survival, so it's important that we are very aware and mindful of what we're wasting and how we're treating the environment in which it grows. How is Phoenix actively working towards accomplishing this goal? So the City of Phoenix offers a few different kinds of networking platforms to connect sustainable producers with consumers, as well as various educational and food recovery programs. So I went ahead and put the links for a couple of the educational programs that can teach you about waste reduction and proper food storage, as well as policies that help local farms to be sustainable and sustainable farming practices and food recovery methods. On the right-hand side here, I have the 5 steps of the food recovery programs, which is basically just diverting as much as it possibly can from the landfills of food waste. So source reduction works on like the production level where you're reducing it from the get-go. Feeding to hungry people is a donation program that before food goes bad, but when it can't be sold anymore, it's donated so that people who are in need have food. And then it's also used for animal feed, and then it can find industrial uses like used oil being turned into fuel, and then last but not least, composting, which can be done on a residential or commercial level. So potentials to increase agricultural resiliency really works on that sustainable agricultural production. And in here, I just put a few potentials for here in Arizona. So on the left-hand side, I have hydroponics, which is a great way to save water and grow food and can be done indoors and in an urban setting. In the middle here, I have agroforestry practices, which is just kind of an incorporation of animals and forests into our agriculture system to kind of create that whole self-sustaining ecosystem to keep our soil fertile and our land producing food. And then on the right-hand side, I have pictures of prickly pears being harvested. Prickly pears aren't the only plants here that are native to Arizona and the desert that can be used for food sources. So a part of regaining agricultural resiliency is going back to our roots and using different plant cultivars that are already acclimated to the climate and potentially acclimated to drought to reduce uncertainty in the face of climate change when ensuring food sources to provide for Arizona and Phoenix as a whole. Next, my group mate Rachel will be talking about the importance of locally sourced food.
So where does Phoenix get its food? Maricopa County is a national leader in agriculture and has a small number of large producers that export their products out of the region, which contributed to an estimated around $2 billion of agricultural production to the economy each year. Future projected increases in population and temperatures will make imports and exports challenging. And the food system is not benefiting the people that actually live in Phoenix, especially low-income minority seniors and children. Food insecurity in Maricopa County is 13.7%, and there are 55 food deserts. So what does Phoenix plan to do? Goal number 2 of the Phoenix Food Action Plan is to strengthen the local economy. Some key weaknesses and gaps that Phoenix has to consider are 1, isolated farms, 2, few growers serving the local demand, 3, access to infrastructure and resources are limited, and 4, officials hold limited interest in implementing solutions. And of course, water shortage is a huge problem. Some key strengths that Arizona has that will make this goal possible to achieve are that growers and independent distributors are capable of following through with this plan, and the food system and leaders are and consumer markets are strong and diverse. So, how this goal helps Phoenix's goal to connect businesses to land for agricultural use will help to create more growers that can serve the local demand and gives use to vacant or underutilized land to help mitigate food insecurity. Phoenix hopes to create opportunities by providing financial and technical resources and plan to focus funding to help support, promote, and maintain local food systems and services. To put the importance into perspective, if every Maricopa County resident purchases $5 of food each week from a local farm in the county farmers would earn an additional $1.1 billion annually. So a great solution that I believe would help boost Phoenix's goal for sustainable, resilient, and local food production is vertical farming practices. As you can see, vertical farming is the practice of growing crops in vertically stacked layers. It often incorporates controlled environment agriculture, which aims to optimize growth and soilless farming techniques like hydroponics, aquaponics, and aeroponics. Vertical farming will help the Phoenix economy, local farmers and businesses, and provide access to healthy food for local communities. Local farming will provide the possibility of lowering greenhouse gas emissions through shorter travel distances, and vertical farming is an innovation that could help solidify Phoenix's plan. So now Kyla will discuss some more components of resilient and local food systems.
So Goal 5 in Phoenix's 2025 Food Action Plan is to create a resilient food system, and this means developing policies and actions that address local and global challenges posed by climate change, urbanization, political and economic crises, population growth, and other factors like that. So creating a resilient food system is important to providing healthy local food for the Phoenix community and to ensuring the sustainable future of Phoenix's food system for the sake of the environment. So Rachel already talked about some of the reasons that locally sourced food is vital to communities in the Phoenix area and any big city, but there are also environmental elements to that as well. So one major one is the reduction of food transportation costs. And there are 3 strategies that this plan outlines to achieve a resilient food system. The first strategy is researching policies and actions that plan for future shocks related to changing population growth, hazards, economic conditions, and climate. So climate change is affecting Phoenix with increasing intensity, and this strategy is sort of suggesting future hazard mitigation, emergency response, and resilience planning efforts, and other things like that. So this strategy also includes collaboration to successfully integrate local food systems into the city, and that requires communication between various stakeholders. So part of this is what Rachel talked about with farmers markets and community garden support. So strategy 2 is convening local food producers with city staff, leaders, and elected officials to build trust and understanding. This builds off of the first strategy because in order to have successful local food system integration through collaboration, there needs to be trust among people and their local officials and community. So collaboration and trust is a main social element of the sustainability of local food. So one example of this in the Phoenix area is Local First Arizona, and they are a foundation in the state that supports local food businesses. And they're a great example of an organization that the city is working with to build collaboration and trust for local food systems. And then the third strategy is exploring funding opportunities from federal, state, and philanthropic organizations for food system activities and staff. And then another really important element that ties all of these strategies together is education. So one example of local food education is Grow House Garden in downtown Phoenix, which not only supports local food, but also teaches nearby residents about growing and understanding their local food systems. And overall, in Phoenix's plan for locally sourced food, I think the one element that could use more work is putting effort and resources into local food education programs. So overall, building resilient food systems is only a possible solution if you're educating communities and educating people in those communities to make sure that they understand local food systems and how they can be contributing to those. So now Chris is going to talk about healthy food.
Having access to healthy food is important for a plethora of reasons. Primarily, eating regularly nutritious meals leads to improved health and well-being, which more often than not results in increased efficiency and productivity. Furthermore, having access to healthy food is a problem a lot of Phoenicians face, as the 43 food deserts in Phoenix make up 75% of the total amount of food deserts here in Maricopa County. So in my research, I found the main strength of the 2050 goals in relation to healthy food is the broad horizon of the suggested strategies, which allows for a variety of pathways in order to eradicate food deserts and provide healthy local food. The main weakness I found, however, was the lack of a specific framework to measure progress towards the stated goals, which is definitely an opportunity for the city to determine its progress in reaching its stated goals. And while there are a variety of stakeholders, the one that I found to benefit the most are those actually located in the food deserts, as they have the most to gain from local nutritious food. In terms of implications for sustainability, I found three main ones in relation to the access to healthy food for all. First, the eradication of food deserts would lead to increased productivity and efficiency for those living within the food deserts, as they would have access to food that allowed for these outputs. Second, the creation of small local businesses would bridge the gap between healthy and non-healthy food. And finally, healthy food for all would greatly increase our quality of life here in Phoenix and would attract new residents and businesses to the Phoenix area. Next, Zane will talk about culturally appropriate food.
The significance of culturally appropriate foods when considering local food systems may not be initially evident. However, it is still possible to have a sustainable food and something that is also healthy while still not being culturally diverse and something that doesn't fit the needs of the communities. In Phoenix, there are approximately 14% of the population that are refugees or Hispanic, and that number is going to continuously grow in the coming years. Unfortunately, is in the case of droughts and food scarcity, it's the marginalized communities that suffer the most from these disparate impacts. Interestingly, conceptions of nutritious diets actually find themselves at odds many times, or rather excluding of culturally appropriate food items, because many of these ideas and notions have been whitewashed. Phoenix uses the phrase access to culturally appropriate foods in both the 2050 sustainability goals and 2025 food action plan. However, it is odd to find that of all the many subtopics that my group members have already talked about, culturally appropriate foods is the prong that receives the least amount of attention and amount of lip service throughout the rest of the reports. There is no explicit strategy of increasing or promoting culturally appropriate foods. The city seemingly has an implicit reliance that the prong will be successfully achieved by other initiatives presented earlier in the report, but this obviously is worrisome and has no means of accountability. So the alternative are pretty simple and require not too much work. Many of the previous group members have presented recommendations that could potentially promote culturally appropriate foods in these communities, but in the absence of an explicit intent or saying so through the programming of a given project, there is a risk that these issues are let by the wayside or considered secondary to other factors such as sustainable or healthy foods. Community potlucks outside of the current pandemic state of affairs offer a really good opportunity for communities to engage in cross-cultural dialogue and also satisfy the standards of culturally appropriate food. Pairing these potlucks with community gardens and greening of vacant lots creates a unique opportunity to source local food that is not just local, but it's also cognizant of the cultural needs of the community. So overall, it's evident that Phoenix is certainly on the path of promoting local food systems that are sustainable, healthy, and culturally appropriate, but many minor adjustments and policy-focused changes in the planning that we've recommended throughout the presentation have the opportunity to ensure that the actions of the Phoenix city at large are effective and comprehensive. So, thank you.